There we go. Welcome to MGO302. I'm Natalie Simpson. Is there anybody in this room, I'm talking to about 70 people, who's taking this class as an elective? No, I didn't think so. Right. This is one of the required courses of the your core business curriculum, operations management. Today's first day of class. Today is not the first day of class and the last day of class in MGO 302 are kind of nothing like the other 26 classes in between. The first day of class, mostly actually what we're going to do today is go over the syllabus. The last day of class is different. Well, it's a ways away. We could talk about that later. And then in between, we talk about what is actually, honestly, my very, very favorite subject, operations management. Who here has heard of operations management? Actually, I'm getting a couple hands. Yes? What is operations management?
Basically streamlining processes.
Streamlining processes. Actually, that's a very elegant answer. We hope we can streamline processes. We don't necessarily get to, but certainly that's a big part of it. Oh, you know what? I should point something out. I said, oh, welcome to operations management. Let's see, let me switch to the visualizer. Everybody have a copy of this? Yes, this is the syllabus. It says production and operations management. You know, you don't need that right there. The name of our course is literally from the 1970s. That is now redundant, production and operations management. But it is so hard to change stuff in the SUNY catalog that we just keep with the same old title. This class is operations management. Right, now I'm standing in front of, there's this 20-page syllabus when you print it out. Well, the last 7 pages of it aren't actually syllabus, but I think that they'll be helpful to you. Right, and so I think, who here has a copy of the syllabus? We're just doing a little poll for fun here. Yeah, okay, good. Everybody needs one. We are a digital access class. Is there anybody here in Jacobs 106? This is your first digital access class. No? Okay, good. All right, so you already know all about this delivery model. Right now, I'm talking to the usual sold-out crowd in Jacobs 106. It's 12:30 on the 31st of January. If you would like to attend live here in Buffalo, you're more than welcome. It tends to be quite crowded in the first couple weeks, and then for some reason, I'm like old news, and this room actually empties out. A bunch of you, your ambition is that you're going to come live, but then I guess I fail to hold your attention, right, and you start using this time slot for other things. So anyway, if you're not here, but you'd like to attend live, one of the things I encourage is to try that a little bit later in the semester. Okay, now, normally, since I have devoted my life to the topic of operations management, and I hope to get you interested in it too, normally, honestly, I'm all like, yeah, operations management's the first day, we got to get to work and do stuff. I wonder if you can hear it in my voice. It's just random circumstance, but on this particular day, January 31st, 2017, I have a really heavy head cold. I've been working through it for about 2 days. So, sorry about that. I hope this is not going to be too hard to watch, but I'm not all like, yeah. I'm kind of like maybe, yeah, right? We can still get some work done. Okay, bear with me. Oh, now, wait, digital access class. We've got about 70, 75 people in the room right now. We are right now a community of 574. The last time that I checked. 68 of us are in Singapore. Hello to everybody at the SIM campus. This is a global access class as well. 455 of us have already logged into UB Learns. Now, today I said, mostly what we're just going to do is go through sort of syllabus stuff. But if you've gotten a copy of the syllabus, then you got it from our UB Learn site. If you have not logged in, please do log in soon. Where do you get the syllabus? Well, it actually explains it here. but it is under Documents. It's the first link on Documents. Now, what are we going to do on this? It is kind of unusual, this first day of class. Well, there actually is a lot of content in this particular document, and I'm going to talk through some of the highlights of it with you. Perhaps you might have some questions. Now, I already introduced myself. You know, it has contact information here. The class meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 12:30 to 2, so that's the so-called live section. Office hours, if you are in Buffalo, I know that would be a long commute for you guys at SIM, but if you are in Buffalo, office hours are 2:30 to 5:30 on Thursday. Now, where are office hours? I think I have a photo of it. If you need help from me, what I like to do is, let's see, I put it here, a PowerPoint slide. Hang out in Jacobs B20. Who here's been to Jacobs B20 already? Yeah, most people in the room here, right? This is the undergraduate tutoring center. And so since the class is fairly large, I find that this works better. 2:30 to 5:30, just drop by. You don't have to contact me beforehand or anything like that. I'll be in there. Now, I might look busy, like I'm on my computer. Just come up to me and interrupt. I'm waiting for you, right? If nobody wants to talk to me, I just bring some work. But this is where we'll be holding office hours. Now, long commute for you folks in Singapore, like it says in the syllabus. Send me your Skype details if you'd like to Skype. And actually, thank you to the folks that already have. And I'm sorry, I'm a little bit behind on my correspondence with this cold. You will be getting I will be returning that invitation to connect on Skype soon. Yes, I'm sorry, your information is still sitting in my inbox right now, but I will get right on it. Now, what do we need for MGO302? Because this is the sort of thing that we are thinking about here at the beginning of the semester. Well, the syllabus continues with information about the textbook. Looks like this. Let's see if I can back this out. You do need it. And, stop that. Right now, on UB Learns, on the announcement page, I just put an email that I got from, anybody in here shop at Greeks and Sneaks on Main Street? Okay, a few people. Oh, they have a really good price on the textbook. They claim $82, I think, used, and $40 to rent. Think about it. If you know somebody in class and you partner with them, you guys could rent the textbook for $20 each. The textbook is also on reserve at the library. There's a variety of ways then to access this content. You do need it. Oh, and at SIM and here also, there should be a copy of the textbook on reserve in the library. You guys at SIM, I don't have any physical way of confirming that it is in fact available right now. So if somebody goes over there and you have trouble at the SIM library finding it, please let me know and I can investigate. Okay, so textbook. Now, and I can already see that a bunch of people already have the textbook. That's good. Getting ready. What else do we need? The textbook right now, on the overhead camera here, is sitting on top of, you also need skeleton notes. Now, here's what I recommend. Well, I recommend, obviously, what I like to do. See, this is a three-ring notebook. I print out the syllabus, just so I always have a copy. The skeleton notes in their entirety, you need them. We use them during the lectures. It's like 150 pages. I have gone ahead and printed that all out for my own use. Truth be told, by Thursday, you only need the first couple pages. And we'll talk about this more on Thursday. The last 7 pages of the syllabus look like a day planner. I highly recommend you'll see me using it, sort of sticking that in the back of the skeleton notes. Anyway, you need to print this out for yourself. Where is it found? Oh, we don't need that anymore. Let's go back to UB Learns. That again is under Documents. There's the syllabus. And it says MGO302 skeleton note frames. on just the 8.5 and 11-inch paper that we use formatted for that, or you guys in Singapore, I also formatted them because they're kind of detailed for A4 paper. So hopefully that they will print identical in Singapore as well. Now it says here, skeleton note, problem answered videos. Okay, there's time enough for that. Actually, the first 3 weeks of class, we're going to be talking all about operations management, but the first 3 weeks of class, there probably won't be a single class that at some point for like 10 minutes, we don't stop and talk about just like something that's got to do with class, administrative, but not necessarily material. Okay, so we'll talk about that more when we get closer to when you might actually use like one of those videos. So you need the textbook, you need the skeleton notes. Really, it's Thursday that we're going to get going with the material. If my voice holds out, we will actually start a little bit with our notes today, but I promise you it is nothing stressful. And I'm not trying to stampede you either. Say, oh, it's the first day of class. We still got to go get all that stuff. Not trying to stampede you. There's a reason why there's a particular little bit of Chapter 1 material I want to go over because it actually has a lot to do with the syllabus. All right, now, we're not even there yet because if memory serves me correctly, talking about the skeleton notes and the textbook, I think we're still only like on page 2 of the syllabus, right? Page 2 going into page 3. Now, the middle part of the syllabus, page 5, page 6, page 7. Oh, that is essentially what I think of as what do I need to do to get an A in MGO302? Oh, well, this is other very good topic for the first day of class, right? Okay, now, I'm going to summarize in a way that I find easy to draw. MGO302. Right now, everybody has an A. Everybody can get an A. I don't curve. That means that I am perfectly content to give every last person an A, 574 people an A in this class, if 574 people earn 255 points. We'll revisit this several times during the semester. Don't worry about it. This is just our first time talking about it. There'll be a time later in the semester we come back to this and I'll be saying, oh, you remember when we were talking about this on the first day of class, the grading scale in MGO302. How does it work? It is a completely transparent scale. If you can accumulate that or more points, you have an A in MGO302. Think of it like a bank account. You will have opportunities to deposit points throughout the semester. The good news is that there's no like auto pay or bills. There's no thing that's going to take points out of your account, right? So you're just building for 14 weeks towards, this is what I recommend your target, 255 points. There's no reason why you can't do this. Okay, now, where are these points going to come from? I'm summarizing what's over 3-4 pages in the syllabus. One major category, there's essentially 4 categories, so what I'm going to kind of try to sketch is like a big 4-box model around this. One major category, of course, like all college courses, is exams, which could provide you up to a total of 192 of those points. There's 3 exams in this class. They are not cumulative. The exams are not cumulative. We call the first 2 exams midterm exams because they are occurring in the middle of the semester. The reason I keep repeating they are not cumulative is because we do tend to speak of the 3rd exam as the final because we give it during finals week, right, when UB gives us a room to all meet and take the exam. But it's not cumulative. It's just the 3rd and last exam. Now, what are these dates? All right, Buffalo calendar time. Let's see, we are going to meet for an exam on the 3rd of March, on the 7th of April, and on the 15th of May. That's all in the syllabus. And you guys at SIM, I'm sure that you're already quite used to this, but remember in the United States, we write the month first and the date second. This sometimes can get confusing. It's the British standard. So our exams are March, April, and May. Oh boy. Now, as long as we're talking about that, in March, if memory serves me correctly, our exam here in Buffalo will be at 6 p.m. They're in the evenings on Fridays. On April, you notice that our exam here in Buffalo in the evening will be at 8 p.m., not 6 p.m. Oh, we will remind you 1,000 times like what each of these starting times is as the exams get closer. But notice that our exams are starting at different times. Who here is in MGS 351 as well? Okay, probably about a dozen people. Have you guys noticed something about April 7th? Yeah, be ready for it. Unfortunately, people who are also taking MGS 351, the core IT course, you guys have 2 exams on that night. You have your MGS 351 exam at 6 p.m. and then our exam at 8 p.m. Okay, and you can do it. But, realize that now. You're going to have to be ready for that. Speaking of that, this particular date, the May 15th, our start time is at 7:15. You can see that one on the hub because that one is issued to us automatically during, exam week by UB Central Scheduling, of which, don't get me started. One of the topics in operations management is scheduling. And speaking of scheduling, who here is in MGM301 Principles of Marketing? Okay, yeah, so now we have at least 20 people out of the room. And, phooey. Was it MGE302? I think it's MGE302. Anyway, our exam and those 2 exams are not simultaneous, but they're all on that day. That's a 3-exam day. Yes, if you happen to be in those core courses, but check whatever your particular schedule is now, right? And be aware of these things coming up in the future. This is the time of year, right, to start making plans and not get caught by this. Yeah, okay. Now, guys at SIM, sorry, I don't have any details on exactly when your exams will be, but when I get them, I will post them. But I know that you have a lot faster and more reliable sources on that information too. Now, as long as we're talking about exams and when they are, these are all evening exams here in Buffalo. Now, in Buffalo. Sorry about that, everybody at SIM, but remember, we're a much larger group, 500 people here. We do have other options. We don't offer them in Singapore. That's why I was saying sorry. If for the exam on the 3rd or the exam on April 7th, if you wanted to, this is just an option. Instead of taking it at 6 p.m. or at 8 p.m., instead of taking it in the evening, you can see in the syllabus it says we offer the option of you can take it at 6 a.m. that same day. You can take it in the morning and just get it off your back. We offer this other section in case we know there are people that have to work on Friday nights. Okay? Now, you might be thinking, yeah, right. I'm going to take an exam at 6 a.m. Why do you even do that to people? We don't do that deliberately. If you're wondering why our optional midterm timing is before dawn at 6 a.m., the reason is, think about that, here on campus in Buffalo, when do classes start? What's the early class that you can get? Some are 7, like 7:30 or 7:45. Most of them are at 8 a.m. Yeah. Okay. These are 2-hour exams. So the reason that we have a 6 a.m. start is the university won't give us a room, right? If there's classes in it starting at 8 a.m., we have to back up 2 hours from when the classes start. So that actually is the origin of that time. Now, there's no 6 a.m. exam. You can read all about this on, I think it's page 5 or page 6 of the syllabus. There's no 6 a.m. exam for the last exam on May 15th. There is, however, you can read about this, an option to take it the Friday before. because our third exam, we pulled a Monday evening time slot in UB Central Scheduling, but we will offer by sign-up only an optional exam on Friday, the Friday before in the evening, which isn't like a huge savings if you were trying to get out of town earlier, something like that. I understand. It's just there for people that have like a really ugly-looking Monday. If you want, as an option, you could take our exam earlier. Now, notice the emphasis on earlier. Earlier. Yes. We do try to, we know things happen in people's schedules. We do try to work with you, right? But we never give exams late, only earlier. Oh, you said, well, wait, that's not fair. I mean, here you are talking to us with your head cold. I mean, what if I get sick and I can't come to the exam? Well, first off, please make every effort to attend exams. Second, yes, I understand there's emergencies. In the event of genuine emergencies and sickness, you can read about this. Please be aware we don't give late exams. We're not going to allow you to miss out on those points, but we give alternative assignments. And out of fairness to the rest of the class, those alternative assignments are a considerable amount of work over the same material. It's essentially case studies, right? And you would do fine. It's not meant as a punishment, but it is not the, oh, wait a minute, our exams are multiple choice. 27 multiple choice questions, like described in the syllabus. 5 super multiple choice. You go, what's that? Don't worry, we'll talk all about that and have practice ones before the first exam. Of which, okay, so that adds up to 32. Each is worth 2 points, meaning each exam is worth 64 points. That's where I got the 192, right? Because there's 3 of them. Oh, all right, so, but that's a little ways in the future right now. Okay, so we have these closed book, closed note exams, a source of a big chunk of points. Where else can you get points? There is also this issue of, I'm just going to write EQS. That's short for Exam Question Simulation, as in an EQS module, an Exam Question Simulation module. Now, what are those? Oh, they're online quizzes that you can earn up to 42 points. Actually, technically 44 points, but for now, we'll say 42 points. In that, this is a series of 8 online quizzes at various times during the semester, of which you get to keep your 7 highest scores. Each quiz has 6 questions. Each question is worth 1 point, so the 6 times 7 is what's yielding the 42. And the reason that I said, oh, really, actually, technically, you could get up to 44 points, because if you read in the syllabus, right, under EQS, so now we're all the way to, page 7 in the syllabus. The very, very last one has 2 extra questions as like a bonus. Now, one of these online quizzes is going on right now. Who in here, you've done the so-called pre-EQS? 1, 2. Oh, yeah, pretty good. Actually, about half of the people who are here right now in class. 26% of the class overall, as of 11:45 a.m. when I checked, had completed the so-called pre-EQS. That has been open since early January. Now, that's a syllabus quiz. It's meant as just a reward for actually reading the syllabus, and so that you get to see, in UBLearn/Blackboard, that's the name of the underlying software, what these online quizzes look like. That's going to close next week. I believe it's February 9th is our last calendar day in Buffalo for the pre-EQS. So if you are not among the 26% who have completed that, don't forget your pre-EQS. What's going to happen after that is the first EQS module is going to open. Yeah?
Find the pre-EQS.
Oh, yeah, actually, thanks. Good question, because it'll be easy enough to demonstrate. See where it says here on the site, EQS modules? Yeah, it's right there. This is the section that each one of these, this is an online quiz. The reason I call them EQSs, exam question simulation, is other than this one, ironically. Not this one, but all the rest of them. They are old exam questions. They're old retired exam questions. I just copied them into pools. So you can just get a feel for what they look like as the time for the exam gets closer. The pre-EQS, though, is just questions about syllabus. Oh, so as I'm standing in front of this, speaking of that, these are open book, open note. You can attempt them up to 3 times. You get to keep your highest score. And they do have a timer on them, but the timer is set for 3 hours. 6 little super multiple choice questions. I mean, it's more than enough time. The timer, actually, the only reason I set the timer on it is because in case that there's something that goes wrong, with the timer set on it, it will eventually file the quiz for you if, in fact, your contact with it got interrupted. Now, the thing about EQS modules is they're pretty simple. They're open book, open note. Don't forget about them. That's probably the biggest challenge just with EQS modules is don't forget about them. That's why you see here it says MGO302 exam email reminder list. We all get way too much email. We're not going to pester you in MGO302 with email unless you want us to, and we're not going to pester you. We will send you 1 email reminder for every major deadline in the class. You do need to indicate that you want us to do this. So, good, first week of class sort of thing also. So, yeah, maybe I better sign up for the email reminder list. Just click on this. We're using the survey function in UB Learns, but it's just going to then ask you to put your name, your UBIT name, and we're just going to create an email list from it. Anyway, all of the EQS modules will appear here in this particular section. Now, wait a minute. I said that there were 8. There's 1 pre-EQS module. We're looking at it right now. It will disappear after February 9th, Buffalo time. Very shortly thereafter, the first so-called midterm EQS will appear, so-called EQS 1. I believe you can confirm this for me in the syllabus that it will be open Buffalo calendar time February 13th and 14th. Okay, so just a couple days after the pre-EQS closes. That will be actual old exam questions from what we had just talked about in class. There'll be this pattern of 2 EQS modules for each exam. You say, all right, well, there's 3 exams, 2 actual exam question EQS modules per exam. That's 6 of these little EQS modules, plus the pre-EQS is 7. You said that there were 8 because we could drop our lowest score. Yes. After that, at the very end of the semester, there's a post-EQS module. That's the one that has 2 extra questions on it just for fun. That's the one that you could score up to 8 points on if you wanted to. As described in the syllabus, it will appear right here. Well, what's that one for? That one's just going to pull from the pools of questions all across the semester. It's intended primarily as a makeup. If you miss an EQS module during the semester, you're very definitely going to want to work with the post-EQS. Do whatever you need to do to remember, and it's open for 4 days. It's during exam week. Do whatever you need to do to remember then to interact with and earn some points from the post-EQS. If you have a set of 7 perfect scores from the pre-EQS and the 6 EQS modules up to it, you're going to be patting yourself on the back at the end of the semester because you can ignore the post-EQS. You don't need it. You can open it if you want to and look at it, or if you think maybe you could score all the way up to 8, you can actually extract 2 additional points from this category. But it's all if you want to. It's totally optional. I'm going to say this a couple more times during the semester. This whole point scheme that I'm laying out here, remember, if you earn points at the beginning of the semester, you will be really, really happy with yourself at the end of the semester because you will have more options. As you're going into finals week and you have finals in all your classes and 3 finals on one day, the more points that you earn at the beginning of the semester, the more options are opened to you in MGO302 at the end of the semester. All right, it's not that you can't play catch-up in MGO302. To a certain extent, you can. But you will thank yourself if you pay careful attention to getting the EQS points now. If you trip up and you forget one of the quizzes, there is always the post-EQS at the end of the semester. Okay, now, so 42, well, technically 44 points from this category. We also have 2 projects set in between the exams. This category can yield up to 50 points. And actually, this category has a lot of opportunities to yield extra points as well. When we get closer to the first project, which is Native Son, which concerns primarily project management, we will talk much, much more about this. Now, I might as well say, I said, oh, this could give you up to 50 points, but projects in particular, they have other opportunities associated with them. It's this other sector here, bonus points, as discussed in the syllabus. No big deal. There'll be a bunch of people that get A's in MGO302. They never earn a single bonus point. Oh, but there are 128 people in class that, good for you, you've already squared away your first bonus points. They're in the syllabus, said that if you finished before the start of the semester, the pre-EQS was worth another point. If you did do that, if you scored at least 5 on the pre-EQS prior to the start of this week, you should see in the bonus point column 1 point. Generally, bonus points work that way. It's like 1 point for this or 2 points for that. For instance, if you finish the projects early, 2 points here, 1 point there. Now, this might not sound like a lot. You're like, 1 point, 2 points, why would I even bother? True, but remember, at the end of the semester, there's going to be this hard requirement right here, and any point here or point there that you can pick up is a point that you don't have to earn on the exam towards your target. I just encourage you to think about that. Now, another thing about bonus points, I wrote no big deal. No, it's true. They're not. Don't panic about that if you don't even earn any. Also, no special deals. This whole sector, please know this, it is public property, right? There's nobody in class that's getting bonus points for something that everybody else didn't know about that opportunity. If there's an opportunity for extra points, I will announce it to everyone. That's how that category works. So, all of these then can contribute to, I know that by the end of the semester, you will have earned at least 255 points. Now, that whole talk I gave, actually, it's a prettier looking diagram. It's in your syllabus. Instead of it being a box, it's a circle. Same thing. The exams, the projects, the EQS, this doesn't represent the bonus points, but they're there, right? This diagram is in your syllabus. Now, you might be looking at this, right, thinking, wait a minute. Well, if the major categories, isn't this really all about exams? 192 points there versus 42 here and 50 here. Yes and no. I want to point something out here on the first day of class about the structure of the whole grading scheme of MGO302. There's an important distinction between the exams, which are an opportunity for up to 192 points, and the EQS versus the projects. This is an image that's also in the syllabus. And come on, invite you to think about this. The exams are what we call, in general, we who create these kind of assessments, a performance-based assessment. In that you sit down, you have 2 hours to demonstrate to me over a set of questions what you can remember about stuff in this class, right? And then that's it. That window of opportunity closes. These 2 smaller categories, there's a critical difference. The projects are completely what we call competency-based. in that we'll talk all about this as the first project gets closer. You can do them over and over and over and over again, and I will give you a benchmark that if you can work your solution up to that benchmark, you get all the points. You have total control over how many points. You know, with an exam, you can study and study and study, and one assumes that if you studied a lot, you would do really well, but you don't have total control over what happens on the exam. You know, on exam night, you still might open the exam and just pull a blank on one of the questions. I don't even remember that. Okay, right, that's kind of a feature of this type of assessment. Here you have total control. I give you everything that you need to get all 50 of those points. With the EQS, it's similar. It's largely competency-based. That's that business about it stays open for 3 hours. You could look up anything within 3 hours, let alone the 6 questions in front of you. And you even have 3 attempts. Okay? You have nearly total control over what your actual score is. All right, now, why am I talking about this on the first day of class? Because on the first day of class, this is where you look at everything that's ahead, right? And you start strategizing for yourself what you want and how you're going to achieve it in this class. If you don't feel that you're really good on exams, you know how some people are just, they do well on exams. Other people, you know, they do okay, but, you know, say, well, I really could have done better, but, you know, I get nervous and sometimes I can't remember. Okay, if you feel that just in general, you know, your performance on exams doesn't reflect everything that you know for one reason or another, you in particular want to be very, very careful to square away all of those points. Because this other section right here is an important buffer against bad luck on the exam. Now, if you're really good at exams, right, that's just a talent of yours, there'll be a few people, only a handful, but in this group, there'll be a few people that get an A in MGO302 pretty much through their exams. They just got top exam scores, and they kind of have the option then of not necessarily remembering every one of these, right, or necessarily getting every point there. But, you know, I wouldn't recommend pursuing that strategy. I'm just pointing out, though, actually how the grading scheme works. You, and only you, know what your situation is. What I would suggest is here at the beginning of the semester, at least, be hyper-vigilant about getting all of these points. Remember, getting points early in the semester. And then if you get busy later in the semester and things were going well for you anyway in MGO302, well, then if you forget an EQS or something like that, you've got some options. Okay, but for now, just assume that you need absolutely all of those points. And do whatever you need to do to make sure that you get those points. In the case of the EQS, it's mostly just remembering that we have Monday and Tuesday, there's an EQS module. Now, any questions on that so far? Yes?
How many questions do we have to get right on the pre-EQS to get credit for it?
To get credit for it?
Yeah.
How many questions do we need to get right on the pre-EQS to get credit for it? You get credit. Yes. You get 1 point for each question. It doesn't mechanically function any different than the other ones. You get 1 point for each question correct. If you did do it 3 times, you get the highest of those scores. If you had interacted with it before the start of this week, it says in there that you needed at least a score of 5 to get the bonus point, right? But that's a bonus point. You know, if you got a score of 4, you still get those 4 points. Anybody else? Yes?
Email reminders include the EQS?
Yes.
Okay.
Email reminders include the EQS. Another feature that might or may not help, I'll just point it out because we happen to have it in front of us. Come on, go away. Don't need that. Here on the course website, we're looking at the EQS section. Document sections where you find the skeleton notes. See down here it says class calendar? I entered just about everything and anything I could think of concerning this class on the class calendar, and you can always glance at it. Right now, you see, this is us, right? We're only now getting cranked up here, but if I forward it, there's EQS1, like right there. Oh, now, there's a little section in the syllabus, and it says UB Learns. Oh, right, yeah, like any other class, our class has a UB Learn site. Oh, always make a habit of checking our UB Learn site. This is more mother-hen advice during the first week of class. You say, well, yeah, why would I not be in the habit of doing that? Because you may become a YouTube fan. You may already be a YouTube fan in your digital access habits. Like all the other digital access classes, we, under lecture access here, is where you find Echo 360, where you can join the live stream for our class, or you can, through the Echo 360 system, watch our class on video on demand. But it will be it'll be the end of the semester. It seems like a lifetime from now. At the end of the semester, we'll be talking about incident and disruption management, and we'll be talking about all of these words that start with R, like resilience, robustness, redundancy, and reliability. And this will come back up. In order to make sure that you can access class whenever you need to, we have a redundant element. And I'm telling you, this will come back up at the end of class. You can access class through Echo 360, or you can access class. And I know most of you, I'm telling you, you already know this, through YouTube, because we post backup copies on YouTube. Yes. And a lot of people find them particularly convenient, but here's the problem. They start just going to the YouTube channel directly, which is to say they go long stretches without ever having gone in through UB Learns. In doing that, you are somewhat more likely to forget things, because I always put announcements or change the banner when there's something to remember, like there's an EQS module going on right now. So if you're in the habit of just tracking into the site and just like looking at the landing page periodically, that's another good way to build against forgetting things, of which YouTube's not going to help you with that. So that's my point there. Okay, so let's see. So we talked about what you need to do to get an A. Don't forget about stuff. Well, that brings us to the actual class itself. Now, let me switch to the wolf. We went through, actually it's mostly stuff in here, other things we will talk about in more detail as the time gets closer. I wanted to spend a little bit of time today just getting started with your notes. Now, you may not have printed out the first of the skeleton note frames, like 150 pages. They're in 4 files, 4 PDF files on UB Learns, and you may not have printed the first one. Don't worry about it. You're going to see that what we're going to do is super, super easy. You could sketch it for yourself on a piece of note paper. This is just the front page, and one of the things that it's pointing out is that you will notice with the skeleton notes that on the bottom of the page I put a lot of other information that's meant to help you study. For instance, if I use a particular image or PowerPoint file, if it was drawn in, I usually put a thumbnail at the bottom over here. If we're talking about a particular keyword, or we're talking about a particular area from the book, like that's what we're talking about. It's actually over page 272 through 274. It's where you can get all the details. I'll put that in, like these starbursts down here. One reason why right now I'm pointing that out is I noticed this, and I understand this. Some people, in order to save paper, right, print the note frames out. They tile them like 4 to a page. The problem is that you are not leaving yourself enough room to take rich notes. The whole point is not necessarily to simply copy what I drew, but what I'm doing down here is I'm inviting you to take richer notes so you'll remember more for the exam. You just literally like not leaving enough room for that. Plus, depending on how you did the tiling, you may not even be able to read like some of the hints down below. Which is why, yes, I know, it's 156 pages, but I really do encourage you in setting, this is a tool that you're going to set up for yourself. You're going to see me use mine during class, but yours is to do whatever you want with it. I encourage you to print them out full size. Now, print them out full size, this is just the title page. The first page, again, like I said, it's not necessary for this class for you to necessarily have this printed out in front of you yet, but let's take a look at this. It has this pyramid. And what it's doing is it's just a simpler version of something that's in your book. It's talking about operations management. Oh, because I put you on the spot for an explanation of what operations management is, and then I got sidetracked, right? We're talking about all like the different things you need to do for an A in a class, and never did actually follow up on that. What is operations management? Well, you know what operations management is ultimately? Ultimately, this class is about decision making. That's really actually what this body of material that you're required to complete in your core curriculum for a business major, that's really what this is. It's just about decision making. You say, oh, okay, well, I mean, that doesn't sound very specific or very special. Where am I supposed to go with that? It's about you making decisions in order to get done what you want to get done. That is what operations is, right? This is what we want to do. Okay, fine. How are we going to do it? Let's make it happen. Now, having said that, I'm still taking in a lot, right? I'm taking in everything from the micro, of which this will come up again during the semester, like decisions that you make daily as far as juggling different tasks that you need to do, to the full-blown macro, like global supply chains that wrap the planet in the provision of goods. True, I'm taking in all of that, and I'm claiming that this class is about that. But when you're taking in a lot, you do need to kind of get organized, right? So you don't get overwhelmed. This is actually one of the first and primary organization schemes to basically work our way through all of that. Now, a lot of people call this the hierarchy of decision making, because this is what it refers to generally in decision making, operations management, or otherwise. It's considered that there's three types of decisions. The first type of decision, well, you can see it up at the top of the pyramid, right, are strategic decisions. You say, okay, now, you've heard that term before. There's going to be a lot of terms in MGO302 that I'm going to say that. This one's not the first time this semester that you'll hear me say that. Oh, you've heard that before. You know what the word project means. You know what the word inventory means. Yes, you have heard it before. You probably just never stopped and thought about, well, what does it really actually mean? Strategy, strategic decisions. You've heard that before. You've used those words in conversation. Have you ever stopped and thought about what it actually means to say that something is strategic? Does anybody have a sense of that? This is a category. Notice it's just the tippy top. It's actually the smallest, although you have a whole nother class in your curriculum that's downstream from this that is in business strategy. It's required, right? Yes, MGO302, right? What does it mean for something to be strategic? Yeah.
It's like the long-term plan or the big picture or something.
Excellent! You nailed it, the long term. That's actually what strategic means. Okay? Doesn't necessarily mean like the most important. It means the long term. If you're making a strategic decision, you're deciding something you're going to have to live with for a while. It's for the long term. Because the difference between these categories is, here's another key word from like exam 1, planning horizon. If you're making a decision, how far do you bother to look into the future, right, to figure out what you're going to do? You say that's your planning horizon, you know, how far you're looking. If it's a strategic decision, you're looking several years out into the future. Oh, and we do that in MGO302. For instance, we will have a unit on, I'm just going to add things to this, like location planning. And certainly, if you're going to build a facility someplace and you're thinking about where to locate it, that is definitely a strategic decision. Because once you've decided that, and this is a good test, if you're trying to figure out if something should be considered a strategic decision, ask yourself, okay, once it's decided and like we signed, how easy is it to back out of? And if it's not, right, then that's careful. It's probably a strategic decision. So, for instance, location planning, facility planning. Oh, wait a minute. I'm just grabbing things from here. Capacity, a lot of capacity is strategic, location planning. These are some strategic models that we're going to look at right here. Now, wait. This particular representation of the hierarchy of planning has tactics as the largest chunk of the pyramid. Another way to think about, and I'm going back up to the top, another way to think about strategic decisions is that, okay, they're for the long term. Typically what you're doing is you are setting overall goals, like we are going to locate there and we're going to invest in this area. Tactical decisions are medium, you know, you could complete this, they're medium-term planning. They're generally planning and decisions that are important, but they rarely look out longer than a year. But here's the key. Tactical decision-making is where, okay, somebody has set a goal, like we're going to locate in Cheektowaga, or we're going to locate in Singapore. You have been tasked with the tactics of that if you are responsible for figuring out how to get that done. And a lot of this class, a lot of the topics in the course calendar are actually about this. A lot of operations is invested right here in tactics. How are we going to do this? Because we have certain resources, right? We have certain restrictions. This is the goal now that somebody has set at the strategic level. We need to figure out how we're going to get it done. Okay, so there's a lot of that in our course syllabus. If you look, a lot of inventory management is on the tactical level. And we actually have 3 weeks. I know it doesn't sound very exciting, but I will try to convince you otherwise when we get there about the middle of the semester, different types of inventory management. So that's an example of something that's distinctly tactical. Now, obviously, in terms of planning horizon, this has been getting shorter and shorter and shorter, right? The implementation, short-term, daily decisions, how to deal with disruptions, that's all implementation. The reason that I wanted to introduce this today, even though you probably haven't printed out the skeleton notes yet, is do you notice that that's how I organize the syllabus? It's essentially the theme that our class will follow. We're going to start with the strategic. And as the semester goes on, we're working our way to the tactical. And where are we headed? To implementation. Because look, quality control, monitoring things even as they happen, scheduling. It's not my last rant on scheduling that you'll hear. Incident and disruption management. This is essentially the structure of our semester. So it's not simply a diagram in the chapter 1 of your book. It is, in essence, the structure of our entire semester. Now, any questions on that? No? Yeah.
So the only difference between strategic decisions and the implemental decisions is the amount of time?
Yeah. in essence, the true deciding factor between these, and it often surprises people, so well, there's got to be more to it than that, is the planning horizon. Because actually some of the most difficult decision-making that you might have to make will be as a frontline manager, even as things are happening, like something's not going right, we got to figure out what we're going to do about this to try to get it on track. You're right here. You're in the short term, you're reacting. So, strategic decisions aren't necessarily any more difficult. They're really just about the time frame that takes place. Now, one of the things that you might notice, here's something else that's a little unusual about the first day of class, is that I won't bore you, or I will try not to, during the rest of the semester, or anything that doesn't specifically concern the exam, such as me. Like there's no questions about me on the first exam. I introduced myself. I said it was Natalie Simpson. Yes, I'm a professor in the Department of Operations Management and Strategy. This is also a whole other class that is downstream from here for you. One of the reasons, though, you might catch that I tend to always telling you, how important tactics are, is because of, at UB, most of the time when you're looking at a professor, right, there's some subject that they're teaching you. Obviously, that's like their area. Typically, though, the professor has a research specialty. It'll be something it's in that area, but it's much narrower, right? And it may or may not come into class. Just depends what the class was. Well, my research specialty is emergency services, just in case anybody's interested. Okay, it's not like on exam 1 or anything like that. Okay, now, think about this. In emergency services, there is all of a sudden something that's unplanned, right, that has happened that we have to do something about. We didn't have any warning. Okay, for instance, just because it's easy to picture, for instance, a building is on fire. Okay, strategic, setting goals. How hard is it to see the goal here? Not very. All of the real difficulty, right, and the real talent is in tactics. Okay, quick, we didn't have any warning. This is all that we've got right now, figuring out what to do about it, right, and getting that solution settled into place, right? This is basically where all the excitement is. So I do, my whole framework, I tend to be more vested like down in this area, and you might notice that. But don't worry about that. You're going to have a whole other class in strategy. And we do have some strategic topics. Now, I still haven't really answered other than to say, it's about decision making. I haven't really answered the question, what is operations? So, next page of the skeleton notes looks like this. You don't have them. You could easily sketch that. That's just exactly what it looks like. It's 3 boxes and 2 arrows. This is probably the oldest explanation for operations and operations management that I know of. It's missing its labels, but this explanation, this model, a simplified representation of something, right, that you impose over something in order to get like a better understanding of what's going on inside of it. This model has been in every operations management textbook that I have ever collected. And I will bring some a little bit later in the semester. I'll prove that to you. I'll bring some vintage ones. And you'll see that they all start with this. 3 boxes and 2 arrows. This is a framework from, now there's a few people in this class from engineering. Welcome. This is in your guys' wheelhouse. This is a model from so-called control theory. But what is it? Okay, an operations management. You can take any situation where somebody wants to get something done. They want to provide a product. They want to provide a service. They want to complete a project. They want to earn a college degree. And you can organize the entire situation essentially into these 3 categories. Now, I'm waving at this one that's up on the screen, but it's not too hard to reproduce this on the board. Okay, the first square on the left-hand side, we say, oh, well, you know, anytime anybody is trying to get something done, if you back off and look at it, it's an operation. It begins with, that's why it's on the left-hand side, a set of inputs. That's the missing label. That's it. You see, inputs? Yes, if you think about any situation where somebody is trying to achieve something, you can look at it this way. First off, it's what are they starting with? Right? What do we have to work with? What goes into this? You know, like resources. Now, we could use a business example. We could talk about a factory and say, oh, well, you know, they need the raw materials, they need the skilled workforce. I'm listing inputs. They need the infrastructure. They need a distribution system, right? That you need all these things to do that. But we might as well explore an example that's a little bit closer to home, because MGO302 is an operation. In the spring semester of 2017, we are a important, fairly temporary operation. We're only going to be running for 14, 15 weeks, right? But we are an endeavor. And we have goals, because that was like part of what I was talking about earlier, right? Was picking a goal for yourself right now for the semester. Okay, if we were to think about our class and all 575 people in it that way, what are the inputs? What are the inputs to MGO302? Yeah. Skeleton nodes, actually. Yeah. I'm saying, oh, you need them, right? Yeah. EQS. Well, actually, the EQS is yes. Although, and it's natural that you think of these things because I was just talking about them a lot, right? But one of the things that it's doing is it is literally making you look past the major input of MGO302. By far, its most important input. Students. Yeah, you guys are. Oh, and we're going to talk about this in the next class and in the next week. It is a service operation. We'll talk about the distinction. And you are an input of your own class. I would argue you are the primary input of the class. Although that there are other stuff, you were just naming there's the things that you need. If the university is to set up any operation like that, you know, to establish a particular course, they're going to need another input too. Like, what are other things that they assigned to MGO302?
The room.
The room. Yeah, we need a room. Yeah.
You.
Me. Yes, you need a professor. Right? They worked that out about a semester in advance. Who's going to teach? These are just inputs. Notice we're making a list, and the list is basically nouns, right? Things like if you were writing these down as bullet points. Need a professor, need a room. Actually, MGO302 is a very particular type of course in that we need other things as well because we don't all fit in the room, correct? Right, so we have the video streaming infrastructure. We have Kevin Hartman. Everybody say hi to Kevin, our producer director, in the back. Right, but in order to get this class to work, right, we need these things. So yes, they're inputs. Oh, all right, but I was explaining that model. Well, do you see where the model is headed? It's known as the I/O model. These inputs go into now, I never draw the box big enough or write small enough. Let's see if I can do it for once. The word is transformation. Yeah, see, it's not going to, well, almost fit. Right? There is some element of transformation. We're bringing these inputs together. Now, this transformation, we're talking about processes. If you were trying to explore this for a particular operation, this is actually in the center is a little bit trickier to see at first. You just kind of have to practice it because it's not nouns, it's verbs. Going back to, a factory, we're saying a factory needs raw material, it needs skilled workforce, it needs it needs a building, it needs machinery, right? But then if you're talking about the transformation process, you would have to be talking about, well, what does the factory do? Well, it assembles automobiles. Assembles is actually a verb, right? Paints them, ships them. The transformation process here is what? I mean, what kind of verbs? What am I doing right now? Teaching. Yeah, there's even a more specific subset of that. I'm lecturing, right? That's one of the processes. If you were doing this type of diagramming for our class, you would list that here. You're looking for actions. I'm lecturing. You're taking notes. That's another very important process, right? These are all hopefully in support of a larger process. Another verb. What's hopefully going on here? Studying. Studying is a verb. Studying is a very important process. I would be surprised if you were studying right at this moment because I'm talking and that's very distracting, right? So, but yes, learning. Hopefully, I mean that is right. But I'm listing verbs. Okay, so all of the inputs, right, go into the transformation process where the verbs kick in. There's a reason to create. Now, even if you I mean, I'd never heard of this before. I'm sure you can guess then what the other blank is, right? What's the third box? Outputs, yeah. This is an operation. Operations exist to create outputs. What we want. Oh, and that's why it's also called, from control theory, the I/O model. Oh, right. So, another word for outputs, like especially if it was something like a factory, its outputs would be products. Yeah. Although there's something tricky here. I wrote products, it's true. For a business system, its products are its outputs. Ah, right. Careful. Not all outputs of any operation are necessarily its intended products. An output is anything that's new that results from this. You say, well, yeah, okay, but I mean, what would any facility be producing that it didn't intend to produce? Why would it do anything like that? Well, take, for instance, a electrical power plant. It produces electricity, right? That's the output. If it is a coal-burning plant, though, it also produces a considerable amount of what? Smoke, pollution, sulfurous oxides. I'm giving you an example of an output. You have to, if you're doing the audit, notice we're back to nouns. Things, discernible things that the operation is creating. You have to list everything. Okay? Yes, so and pollution is like the classic textbook example of something that you don't necessarily want to, but it is an output. Now, MGO302, interesting. We are a 14-week, 15-week operation, endeavor. We are endeavoring to create outputs. Although actually, and this is not uncommon with service systems, it's a little trickier to figure out. You just have to think about it. What actually is the output here? Yeah. An educated student, I like that. You know, education. Although you can be, and I wouldn't blame you, a little more nitty-gritty about it. I think that is our finest output, education and knowledge. But true, we can also be practical. What else?
Debt.
Debt?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess I hate to think of it that way, but, you're right. Maybe that's the sort of equivalent of pollution with the electrical power plant, as we are in the short term anyway, creating something that's not desirable for some people. Is that some debt? So we'd have to list that. Yeah. Arrogance? In who? You or me?
In us, because we learned, we think that we know enough now.
That's interesting. Okay. If you think that that's prevalent, arrogance. I'm not totally convinced that necessarily happens in all people. How about confidence? Right? I know there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. But me with my head cold, I'm just trying to stay positive, right? So maybe we could say confidence / arrogance. Knowledge, yes, knowledge, the educated student. Now, Me also as an employee, as a professor, right? I see there's other ways of describing this. Why are you in this class? Nobody said they were taking it here as an elective. It's a requirement, right? Okay, so another thing you say, we're creating in the knowledge credit hours. That you could list that, right? You need those particular credit hours to get your degree, right? Grades are an output. Okay, so we can populate this list. Now, what was the whole point of this? Well, it's to motivate ultimately, what's the whole point of operations, whether it's MGO302 or whether it's anything else? Somebody or some group of people are endeavoring to do something, okay? Their operation, so to speak, is not going to survive unless, when you lay it out this way, just this particular way, you don't see a very important condition. Remember I said this was a list of nouns? Here's the theory. I mean, we're very much in theory land here, right? Okay, I listed out a series of nouns, the inputs. We could quantify their value, right? You say, overall, this is the value of the inputs. This is what everything cost to do this, right, including the borrowed money. Then the value of the outputs. We could add that up. Oh, with which actually the debt becomes a negative number because it's pulling value away. Pollution, you would have to quantify the value of it, and you would expect it to be a negative number because it's taking away value from the positive number, like what is the actual worth, for instance, of the electricity. Nonetheless, here's the theory. You can do that and come up with one number for the value collectively of all of the outputs. This whole operation's not going to survive unless what is true about this number, the collective value of the inputs, versus this number, the collective value of the outputs. What's got to be true? This has to be, outputs has to be greater, right? And the name for that condition, it's a necessary condition for this to survive. The name for that condition, I know you've heard that phrase before. Are you telling me you've never heard anybody say value added? That's actually what that phrase refers to. The purpose of the operation, right, what we are striving for is to create value. Value creation is another way to describe it. But we begin with what we have. Just really, really loosely speaking, this is another way to think about the same model. You start with what you have. This, I kept saying, was verbs, verbs, verbs. It's what you do. I lecture, you take notes, you study, right? I do the grading. It's what we do. And it doesn't fit the case of pollution or debt, but we say we tolerate that because even though they're negatives, right, it's still worth it because overall this is what we want over here, right? This is what we're trying to achieve. Okay, I've given you one framework that works for everything. So now at this point, welcome to MGO302. I am not ashamed to say, yes, this is a class that's about virtually everything. Although as we get further, and actually what we're going to do for the next 2 weeks is we're going to talk about a series of other frameworks similar to this one. This is what we do early in this class so that we can organize all of this, right, and not get lost in it. But at that point, I think that's enough for note-taking today. Thank you for your patience. Remember, you guys, you do need the skeleton notes definitely for Thursday.